Are you thinking about starting a business but feel overwhelmed by what you've heard? Today we're busting the biggest myths about launching a startup. Get ready for some eye-opening truths. The first myth we're going to cover is capital requirements. When looking online, you may see all sorts of varying information. There are some people that say you need $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, whatever it may be. I'm here to tell you that it really depends. In my case, we really didn't need that much to start up at all. The only thing I got, this is for my junk removal business, is I traded in my current vehicle, which was a Ford Focus, for an F-150. I didn't put anything extra down. I negotiated the sale, brought the truck price down pretty significantly, and then financed. Now I know not everybody may have that option. Not everybody has a vehicle that they can trade in or, meeting credit requirements. You may have to improvise. For example, for junk removal, I see people starting out with their first, whatever vehicle they have, or renting U-Hauls. I've seen plenty of guys renting U-Hauls for the bigger jobs, renting a pickup truck, making it work. I think, especially in the beginning, I would actually, in my personal case, if I were to go back in time, I'm glad that I did it the way I did it, because now I have I have an Isuzu NRR dump truck. They're quite expensive, and I think if I had bought that right off the bat, or financed it as I did now, right off the bat, that would have been really bad. I don't think I could have afforded it. It would have been really stressful. So I'm glad I started incrementally. That's what's worked for me. That's what I would recommend for you is test it out. Start with just a little bit, and if you see success, then start getting better and better stuff. When I first started, I got the pickup truck, like I mentioned. Then I built walls on it to increase the bed capacity. A month and a half later, we were so busy and getting so many jobs that I bought a dump trailer. I had a mentor who, I was going to buy a utility trailer first. If anybody knows utility trailers, they don't really have walls. The bottom's made out of wood. You have to manually unload them. The mentor recommended I skip that completely and go for a dump trailer. They're made out of metal. They're way more sturdy. They've got a way higher payload capacity. I'm so glad I did that because it saved me a lot of time and skipped a step. But anyway, you don't need as much as you think you need when it comes to capital, at least in my opinion. I think the most important thing is making sure that the business works. So I would just start with a little bit, and then that's what I did, and see where it goes from there. Myth number 2 is originality. A lot of people think that you have to create this new unheard of product or service, and that's fine. There's certainly a need for that, and innovation and creativity. Those are great things, but it's also, I think there are plenty of services that are very much in demand. There's a plumber shortage, right? There's a handyman shortage. In my area, at least, when you call a plumber, you're going to wait at least a week or two to get somebody out. So do you really need to create the next craziest thing? Do you really need to, work on spacecraft and the next generation of technology? I mean, sure, if you can, fantastic. But we need plumbers right now. We need handymen right now. So I think really what goes into this here is when you do pick something, do it really well, and set yourself apart from the competition by providing incredible. I mean, it's really not that difficult, guys. I had a contractor come out on Monday, and I get so frustrated when people don't contact me, when they don't keep me updated when they're coming. And I just sat around all morning. They were almost 2 hours late, and it was a really frustrating experience for me. I'm not sure I'd use them again. It's such a simple thing. Just let me know when you're coming and give me an update if you're running late. It's just common courtesy. And those small things already, that's one of the things we do. We communicate very well. We check in the day before. We call them the day we're on the way. We text them when we're on the way, whatever their preference is. But they cannot say that they didn't know we were coming. And we make sure of that. And I just think that that's common courtesy. We respect their time. They respect our time. It's great. A lot of people give us great reviews on Google because of that. The next myth is work hours. I think we really have put hustle on a pedestal, and sure, you should definitely hustle, but at the same time, I think it especially for me in the beginning, and I'm still sort of guilty of this right now, is kind of a disregard for how much time you put into something. Especially in the beginning, I did not track how much time I worked. I still kind of don't. I'm working on it, but I'm sure a lot of you feel like this. As entrepreneurs, we love to work. It's something we really enjoy, and I think what's really important here is track your time, and you're probably being inefficient with your time, just realistically. And so you need to start, seeing, okay, well, what works better for me? So for example, when I first started, I used Excel to track, well, even before that, I just used the Notes app on my iPhone to track customer information, track income. And it just started taking up so much time. It was so messy. I don't know if anybody's ever come into this, but when you start putting too much stuff in one single note, it causes your frickin' phone to crash, the app to crash. It has a ton of lag as you swipe. And so I said, you know what, this is not really intended to hold so much information in one note. I could have created multiple notes, sure, but I did it all in one for each year. I did that for the first 2 years. And then I kind of realized, I switched over to Excel. That was still way too much work. I'm not an Excel pro. So I ended up getting QuickBooks. I ended up getting the software called House Call Pro, which is it's a CRM, allows you to store your customer information. It's fantastic. If there's one thing I wish I could have done right off the bat, would have been to get that. Again, I don't think I could have afforded that in the first couple months, but maybe in the second year, I definitely should have gotten it earlier than I did. I waited too long to get that. Myth number 4 would be customer acquisition. I am definitely guilty of this one. When I first started, I just kind of was like, well, customers are going to come to me. I registered my business. I have a website. They'll come to me. Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. I was not very busy my first year. I did as well as my old job, but I didn't make great money at my old job. So after that, I kind of got off my butt and really started going out there. I started running Google ads. I started running Facebook ads. I invested a good bit in my website. I started doing SEO. Very active on my Google page. I started posting in Facebook groups. And the minute I started doing that and putting in some effort, I started getting results. I would say it took me well over a year. I'm still learning what works best. It's a continuous process, but as long as you in the beginning you're patient, you're not going to be good. You're going to suck, right? When you first get on a bike, you fall a ton. You make a ton of mistakes. Same thing with really anything in advertising. I didn't know what I was doing. I probably still am not the biggest expert in the world, but I know way more than I did 3 years ago. So you've got to if you don't put effort into it and you just kind of, I hope this works, I found that doesn't really work. You're not going to get a whole bunch of it if you don't put at least a little bit of effort in. Educate yourself a little bit. There's so many free courses. There's tons of stuff on YouTube about different advertising methods. There's all sorts of online courses now that you can take for fairly cheap. That's what I did, educated myself a little bit. Also use professionals where appropriate. So you've got to put in some effort. Otherwise, in my experience, you're not going to get customers. The next myth is about success. You're going to watch, I've seen a lot of different videos on YouTube, books, documentaries, and it just seems like certain people just out of nowhere became these successes. And I would advise to not buy into that. Either it's not true, in which case, it's so easy nowadays to, rent a fancy car, rent an Airbnb, and just because you see something in a video doesn't actually mean it's true. So I really think personally, any amazing results, any tangible results, any profound results, they come from hard work, persistence, dedication, and great systems. So my word of caution here is you're not going to just found your company and get instant success. You will need to put in hard work. I would say, I'm in year 3 now, almost 3.5 years now. I would say just now I'm starting to feel like we're getting somewhere. We had a pretty good year last year. We had a decent year the year before that. But this is the first year where I'm starting to think, okay, we got something going on here. So it definitely takes time. I mean, it is daunting thinking back. If I'd been 3 years ago, would I have done this again? Definitely think I was a little crazy, but I am glad I did it. There's a lot of hard moments. I hope that this channel will continue, and at some point we're going to come back and look at this video too, and people are going to think, oh, Mike got instant success, it came easy to him. No, definitely a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of stuff you don't see, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned. But I would say I'm a much stronger person. The company is much stronger than it was 3 years ago, and it feels freaking good when you get there. And I'm sure it's going to feel freaking good again in 2, 3, 4, 5 years when I look back to myself now and think, dang, I've come even further since then. So my point here, have realistic expectations. It is hard, and that's fine, but you better be ready for it and be prepared to put in some hard work and be prepared to make mistakes. Because if you're not okay with making mistakes, this might not be for you. The most important thing I always say to my staff, I'm fine with you making a mistake, but don't make it again. Because that shows me you're not learning. That shows me you don't care. So I think making mistakes is part of the process. It's how you learn. Sometimes you really do have to touch the hot pan and learn. Don't touch the freaking hot pan. Next up is risk and reward. Really what I want to say here is you got to be careful. So for us, for example, this is a skill that I've had to recently learn, is not every job is for us. So a couple weeks ago, we got asked to remove a cast iron. It's kind of like a cast iron fireplace, essentially like a wood insert. And that thing was heavy. I tried to move it by myself just to see. It didn't even budge. And what made it really difficult is the floors in the home were hardwood. Hardwood is expensive, and you scratch that up, you're going to be replacing that floor. The other thing is there were a lot of furniture in the area. There were some steps. I had to turn down the job. I think I would have had to quote them quite a bit. I don't think they would have agreed to that, first of all. And second of all, even if they had, just the sheer amount of liability, it just didn't make sense to me. Even if I had quoted them a certain number, I probably would have still said, it's going to be this number, but I still can't do it for you. And some of you may, shake your head at me and say, missed opportunity, I could have done that. That's fine. Everybody has their own limits. For me, that was unreasonable. We've had other situations too, large tree logs, just various concrete, big pieces of concrete. You have to realize at a certain point the risk versus the reward, and also, is this even what we signed up to do? So in our case, we're a junk removal company. We're not excavators. We're not, with this cast iron fireplace. I even wonder, we were talking about after, if this was put in maybe with a small crane or something. I don't know. It was beyond our capability, and I personally had a lot of respect for myself. I think it's really good to recognize not every job is meant to be, and the risks are simply not worth it. So that would be my advice, is think about the risk and reward. If you're going to do it, be smart, really plan it out. Don't rush. That would be my advice. Otherwise, you may well be in the red. You may lose money on this job. You may get in trouble. That would be my advice. Myth 7 is that the myth that you got to go about it alone. That's simply not true. I think, again, you see these people and you think, oh, this person's going about it alone. And that's not, it can be true. Sure, we've got lone wolves out there, a lot of respect. But I think it's important to ask for help. So in the beginning, I watched a ton of YouTube. I've mentioned this channel before. Sonoma Strong Hauling, really nice people. I watched a ton of their videos in the beginning. Very helpful. I think for me, it was important to acknowledge that I don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And their videos helped a lot. A lot of it would, in retrospect, probably seem like common sense, but I'm still glad I watched it. Didn't cost me anything other than some time, which I had plenty of back then. And I was also fortunate enough to get mentored by a local junk removal company. They gave me a lot of advice. Really nice people as well. If you're watching this, Sam and Adam, you guys are awesome. They gave me a lot of advice in the beginning, and I really appreciated it. They gave me the advice about skipping the utility trailer. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I never bought that thing, because they're a pain in the butt to unload. They don't work for what we do. They're better for like transporting lawnmowers and light equipment, in my opinion. So I recommend finding a mentor. So I think I was lucky. I don't know if everybody's able to get in a situation like that, but I recommend, for example, for junk removal, there's a Facebook group that has quite a few people in it. It's not a group I am really active in anymore. It's very much so, I think, more geared towards beginners, but it's a great resource when starting out. I'm sure there's other groups like that for plumbers, electricians, where you can ask basic questions, get advice. There are people in those groups that may not be nice to you, but that's what I had to happen to me. There were some people who were not nice, but honestly, I think that just reflects poorly on them. Everybody has to learn, and I think I would much rather have somebody ask a question and learn, admit that they may not know, rather than somebody who fakes it, gets it wrong, and really screws something up. So to kind of sum everything up here, I think there are plenty of misconceptions out there about the money, doing it yourself, customer acquisition. What I really recommend is doing your research, reaching out to resources that are helpful. In the US, there's something called the Small Business Development Council. I'm not sure if they're everywhere, but in our area we have one. It's part of the Small Business Administration. It's a free resource. Their job is literally to give you advice. So in the beginning, they helped me a lot. They gave me literally a checklist of all items I needed to do prior to starting the business. A lot of it's common sense, right? Register with your state, get an LLC, get business insurance, get your business license, get a business bank account. It's all sort of basic stuff, but it's still nice to have it all in front of you. So that's what I would recommend. I think they also help with research, seeing how many people could be your clients, that kind of stuff. Data gathering, they also provide, again, at least in my area, meeting rooms, stuff like that. But anyway, so I really encourage you guys, give it a shot. If you're hesitating, I think there is opportunity out there. I mean, I literally just took the plunge. The only thing I did is I kept my job until I was sure that it worked. But once I saw it worked, I went into it full time. No regrets. I'm very happy about where I am in life. I hope that this video has helped you. I hope that if you have any questions, you can ask them in the description down below. I'd love to hear them. I'd really also appreciate a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.